Presidential candidates Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio have continued their fight that they began on the last debate stage, slinging insults at each other's immigration records from the campaign trail. During a campaign stop in St. Paul, Minnesota, Hardline host Ed Berliner spoke to Senator Cruz about his immigration plan and how exactly it differs from Marco Rubio's.
I'm very proud to have joined with conservatives in both the Senate and the House to reform how we target bad guys. And what the USA Freedom Act did is it did two things. Number one, it ended the federal government's bulk collection of phone metadata of millions of law-abiding citizens. But number two, and the second half of it that is critical, it strengthened the tools of national security and law enforcement to go after terrorists.
Here's the world we live in. This is a radical jihadist group that is increasingly sophisticated in its ability, for example, to radicalize American citizens, in its ability to exploit loopholes in our legal immigration system, in its ability to capture and hold territory in the Middle East, as I outlined earlier, in multiple countries. This is not just the most capable, it is the most sophisticated terror threat we have ever faced. We are now at a time when we need more tools, not less tools. And that tool we lost, the metadata program, was a valuable tool that we no longer have at our disposal.
Let's talk about the record now, and because I'm going to give you a chance to set the record straight. And this goes back to the debate in Las Vegas and the immigration issue that comes up. 2013, you supported the Gang of Eight immigration bill.
That's totally wrong.
Okay, now that's what the media comes out and says, and that's what everybody, if you go to a news story right now, they will say that you supported the bill, you spoke for it. So I want you to get a chance to set the record straight and exactly where you stand.
Actually, Ed, on this, the questions are abundantly clear. So let's go back to 2010. In 2010, my friend and colleague, Senator Marco Rubio, campaigned in Florida, promising the men and women of Florida that he would lead the fight against amnesty. They elected him to do that. When I ran for Senate in Texas, I promised the men and women of Texas that I would lead the fight against amnesty. They elected me to do that. He and I made the identical promises. Then in 2013, there was a moment, as Ronald Reagan would put it, that was a time for choosing, that everyone could decide which side of the line they stand on. Marco Rubio made the decision to stand with Barack Obama, with Chuck Schumer, with Hillary Clinton and the Democrats. He listened to the big money interest in Washington, and he co-authored the Gang of Eight, the Rubio-Schumer amnesty bill. Now, at the exact same time, I made the decision to stand with Jeff Sessions, to stand with Steve King, to stand with the American people against amnesty. So while Marco Rubio was leading the fight to pass amnesty, I was leading the fight to defeat amnesty, and we succeeded. We defeated amnesty because we motivated and mobilized millions of people across this country. Now, you look at the last debate we just had in Las Vegas. It was a very important debate. It was important on a number of fronts. One of the things that finally became clear was the first debate in 5 debates where Senator Rubio admitted in the debate not only that he supported amnesty, supported President Obama and Chuck Schumer and amnesty, but that he still supports amnesty today. On that stage, he said he still advocates a pathway to citizenship for those here illegally. He had avoided saying that in the previous 4 debates. But secondly, we also had a detailed discussions about the national security dangers in the Rubio-Schumer amnesty bill. In particular, the Rubio-Schumer amnesty bill would have given Barack Obama blanket authority to admit Syrian refugees, tens of thousands of them, without mandating any meaningful background checks. As we've seen in Paris, as we've seen in San Bernardino, that is profoundly foolish and dangerous. Border security is homeland security, and if you're not prepared to secure the border, to protect the homeland, you can't keep the American people safe.
Then why are people saying that you waffled?
Well, because what's happening is the Rubio campaign is very nervous right now. In 2013, they thought it was very clever to join with Chuck Schumer and Barack Obama and to abandon the promises he made to the men and women who elected us. They thought that what it would do is curry favor with the big money donors in Washington. That's how they get elected, is they get big checks for supporting amnesty. Now, 2 years later, they're nervous. I think they're regretting having made that decision, so they're trying to run away from it. And the classic game that Washington plays is they try to muddy the waters. They try to confuse people. They try to say, if their candidate is going to break the promises to the men and women who elected us, they try to say, well, everybody does it. We're all guilty. And so what they're saying, they're focusing on, when I was leading the fight against amnesty, I introduced a series of amendments to defeat the amnesty bill. One of those amendments was an amendment to remove the citizenship provision. So the Gang of Eight granted citizenship to 12 million people here illegally. I introduced an amendment that said anyone here illegally is permanently ineligible for citizenship. What the Rubio campaign is trying to say is, well, gosh, by introducing that amendment, it means you supported the legalization in the Gang of Eight. It's utter nonsense. No, the fact that I was taking out one bad portion of the amendment was not suggesting that I supported the other bad portions of it. And you know, one of the surest indications of that is in that fight, side by side, I was supported by Jeff Sessions and Mike Lee and the other strong conservatives. We all did this together. We led the fight against it. And you know what introducing that amendment did? It called the Democrats' bluff. It called the Democrats' bluff because the Democrats were talking over and over again about how they were concerned about those here illegally. And what it was all about was getting partisan votes for Democrats.